very much, Commissioner Fielding.
Thank you for appearing today and helping us. You said in your testimony that at 9/11 you received information that there was a firearm from a credible source.
Yes.
Can you provide us that credible source?
I don't know who specifically it was. However, in the operations center, not anybody could just call us up and say, you know, we think this is what happened. Any information that came to us had to come from either the airlines or an FAA office or the FBI or some other government agency. It wasn't something that just anybody could access. So I personally don't know where that came from, but any information we had came from a credible source.
Well, help me out a little. You're in a room and you hear that somebody else has received that information?
What we had was just a standard operations center, had 4 walls, and on each wall we had big blocks of the butcher paper where whenever anything of substance came in, we would write that information down on the paper. And then when we were putting together the executive summary, without looking at things politically or using any other filtering process, we just wrote down the facts that we had. And one of them was that a gun was on such and such a flight. And the person also identified the seat where the gun was held by the passenger, and that apparently an individual sitting in front of that seat was shot. And we just reported that.
You remember who wrote it on the butcher paper?
Yes, there was a lady by the name of, not on the butcher paper, but I know who wrote it on the executive summary.
No, but I'm trying to figure out who received the information and wrote it on the butcher paper.
I really don't know.
So I wanted to play that clip from the 9/11 Commission regarding an anomaly that is continuing to be covered up about additional weapons on planes, and in this instance, a gun. Now, in the final 9/11 Commission report, it is stated that Daniel Lewin, the first casualty on 9/11, was stabbed. But in the initial reports, for those in the know, I've heard about the rumblings of a gun being on board American Airlines 11. Now, where did this rumor start? It didn't just appear out of nowhere. Well, as you could see, in the 9/11 Commission interview, showing that Bojanovic did hear, along with Jane Garvey, about a gun on board American Flight 11, but they dismiss it in their on their reports that there was no gun involved, but it didn't happen overnight. Now, I'm going to read a very interesting interview of an American Airlines employee, Suzanne Clark, regarding this incident of a gun on board American Airlines 11. And this is going to fill in a couple of the blanks that was left in that interview. So you can see is the memorandum for the record. Now, these are very important to read. These are the FBI, the 9/11 Commission interviews. I mean, not FBI, the 9/11 Commission interviews of people in various backgrounds. They're called memorandums for the records. Now, I don't know if the website is still up for the National Commission on the terrorist attacks, but you could find them on Scribd and download them. I have all of them. It's like 2,000. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's like 11,000 something files. It's a lot. It's a lot. It was a lot of interviews with a lot of people. And, you know, they talk about, oh, you know, everyone was in on it at some level. Yeah, these are all public servants. You know, this is the reason why the 9/11 Truth Movement is a failure in that regard. So you can see Suzanne Clark, American Airlines employee, the interview took place November 18, 2003, location, American Airlines Operations Center at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, Texas. Now, the participants were Sam Brinkley, Lisa Sullivan, Bill Johnstone, Miles Cara, and John Rant, all 9/11 Commission staffers. Here's the background on Suzanne Clark. Suzanne Clark has been an American Airlines manager for corporate security in Dallas, Texas, 7 years. On September 11, 2001, Janet Riff, the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, Principal Security Inspector, assigned to United Airlines, who was in the FAA Command Center on Washington, D.C. on September 11th, reported to have received information from Suzanne regarding a gun on board Flight 11. Commission staff interviewed her to verify the information. Now, this would also help to solidify the consistent theme from DJ Thermodetonator and Paul Thompson that there were weapons on board these planes. And this is how I met DJ Thermodetonator, through a discussion regarding weapons on additional planes and on the hijacked planes themselves in Pachinko. And that was about 8 years ago. On the morning of 9/11, she was driving into work and heard on the car radio that one of the World Trade Center towers were hit. She was walking into the building at a little past 8 a.m. Central Time when one of the secretaries said, "Hurry, hurry. I think we have a plane that was hijacked." She went into Larry Worley's office. From that location, she mentioned the news for the rest of the day. She monitored the news for the rest of the day. She took notes on what was reported on the networks. She did not provide any information to the SOC. She doesn't remember talking to Janet Riff that morning. She can't remember what she said, if the conversation even took place. It was brief, if it happened, she said. She doesn't know at the call came in on a line where it could have been transferred to her. She's not sure. Mainly, she said she was locked in Larry's office throughout the day. Right? So, okay. Here's page 2. Now I'm going to make myself disappear so you can read it. Right? Redacted was the person that Riff would normally deal with at American because he handles regulatory compliance. He was out of the office that morning. Riff reported to have tried to catch him initially and was transferred to Suzanne because she handles such calls in his absence. She doesn't remember what time it was when blank returned to the office that morning. Later in the afternoon, he told Suzanne that Riff called him to verify that she received the report of the gun from Suzanne. He asked Suzanne if she knew what Riff was talking about, and she said she did not. She doesn't know how it is that Riff arrived at the conclusion that there was a gun on board. Riff had in her notes from that day that Suzanne Clark said gun, along with the names and seat numbers of the hijackers. So the claim came from Suzanne Clark. Clark claims not to have learned the names and seat numbers of the hijackers until the next day, and she didn't recall receiving any information on the weapons or tactics used on the hijacked flights. But why would Riff say this? You know, there's a distinct difference between gun and knife. Gun and, rope, gun and poison. You can't mistake a gun for anything except for a toy gun. Because I happen to believe that guns were on board this plane. And there was a claim that there was a gun on board Flight 77. This would help keep the passengers back. But why would the State Department, why would the Department of Justice cover this up? Because someone would have to be working in the airline industries to put the weapons on board. Wouldn't we want these people prosecuted? Well, that means that there would be a system-wide criminal crackdown on who provided the weapons on these planes. Now, remember, they found weapons on other planes, too. And CNN reported on that in the week after 9/11. Redacted came in and out of Warren Wanley's office asking her what was going on. She learned the next day or the day after that about the flight attendant who called the service manager on Boston and shared information. That would have been Betty Ong. She never participated in an after-action report conducted by the airline. She gave her notes from the day to Wainsley. In summation, Clark unequivocally stated that she never made a report about a gun being used on Flight 11 on September 11th, or subsequently because she never had such information. Commission staff would like to check the phone records from Rip's phone on September 11th to see if she called Clark or redacted numbers, in addition to a copy of Clark's notes that she turned over to Wainsley. Now, as you read in the previous page, she doesn't know how it came about that there was a gun on board. Now, of course, bad memory, maybe. Could be. You have to give her that option. Or maybe someone within American Airlines, like a Jane Garvey, or the FAA operations manager, said not to mention gun at all. Why? Because that would mean that there would be a proper investigation into the airline industry. Well, they did just that with Argenbright Security. In fact, Frank Argenbright, who had nothing to do with 9/11 besides hire lessers and for his airline industry, weak security protocols and lack of any proper documentation into a background investigation into those employees, because it would show that there was a massive cover-up of people, Al-Qaeda maybe, Al-Qaeda sympathizers to the cause from other jihadist organizations, or non-organizational members who have sympathies, or were just told to plant the weapons on board. It would show that there was a wide range and very, very weak security practices. And if the airline, like American Airlines, a national airline, had to admit that there is a glaring hole in security protocol, you think anybody's flying? There would be a drought, and there would be a massive amount of layoffs and millions upon millions of dollars in revenue lost. So it's better to cover it up, isn't it? Not scare away potential clients to their businesses. Now, it's safe to say that here we are, 24 years later, and still this stuff isn't talked about, because I guess it's not sexy enough or it's not Jewish enough. But here you have what is likely a cover-up within a cover-up, right? That the airlines were covering up regarding security lapses that led to the planting of weapons to those on board these planes that hijacked the planes. And there were going to be other hijackings. So I'm going to do a lot more of these readings from memorandums to the records, because some of them are very important, and it will be helpful because, what I believe could be another terrorist attack. We have to be prepared, because we weren't prepared pre-9/11 at all. All right. Thank you for tuning in, guys, and reading along with me, and see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.